Hi everybody, welcome to Tomato Junkie's Kitchen, also known as Sarah's Kitchen. Tonight the recipe is going to be what was, I guess, really a famous recipe of mine, and I didn't even realize it when I was doing it some 20 years ago, but is a chocolate chunk cookie. Now, one of the things that made it special was I put macadamias in it. Those things are expensive. I mean, wherever you look for them, they're going to be expensive. I did buy some at Costco, which fortunately they were already roasted. And that's one of the things that I would suggest to you for when you put nuts in cookies or anything else that you prepare other than a pie, because it's going to go ahead and toast it when you're cooking a pie. But if you're going to use it for cookies, go ahead and toast the nuts in advance, whether they be pecans, walnuts, macadamias, whatever you're putting in. And that means putting them in a 375-degree oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. When they are fragrant, they are done. And be careful not to overdo it, because you can over toast them or make them look kind of brown, and that's not what you want. So anyway, I had a 35-plus year career in EMS as an EMS paramedic first and then battalion chief. And many of the people I worked with loved these cookies. And to me, they were just very basic cookies. Nothing special about them other than maybe the fact that they had macadamias in them. And I also put chocolate chunks as opposed to chocolate chips, which I'll speak more about that as we're making the recipe. But it's a very basic cookie dough. There's nothing secretive or tricky or anything like that about it. And it comes out as a really great cookie. And of course, there's all kinds of ways that you can customize it. So anyway, in the next phase of the video, we're going to go ahead and start making the cookie. A couple of things I would say, and I will probably repeat that later on. A couple of things I would say is always use unsalted butter so you can control the salt in the recipe. The other is some of the nuts that I'm using, the macadamias, are already pre-salted. Now, if you want to use salted nuts, what you can do is you can rinse that salt off of them in a colander and then kind of like roast them briefly again in the oven just to get that all off of there. But in this case, I'm going to just reduce the amount of salt that I would normally put in the cookie. And every sweet thing, cookie, pie, otherwise, needs salt. The salt enhances the flavor of whatever you're doing. It's just, I can't really explain it, but it does enhance the flavor of whatever you're doing. So anyway, in this particular cookie, I'm going to reduce the salt based on the fact that the macadamias are salted. I'm also going to use pecans, which I toasted, and then some chocolates, which I will talk about later on. But any of you can make this cookie, and it comes out apparently impressive, because a lot of people have asked for it as the second most requested recipe of mine. The first was the potato salad. This is the second most requested recipe of mine. So we'll get going on that next. We're back. Okay, one of the things I wanted to show you was measuring. And in baking, it's the only thing that you have to be absolutely exact about for the most part. Other types of cooking, there's all kinds of room to vary and all that. So there are two methods of measuring flour. One is dip and sweep, which you dip the cup in and sweep it off. But most recipes, what you're going to do is you're going to spoon it in, which, I use this spoon. And then what you do is you take a flat spatula, knife, whatever, and you level it off. Okay? That's the proper way to measure. For this recipe, what I've already done is, if you can see into the bowl, which, we're going to get up close where you can see into the bowl a little bit. What I have in there is 1 cup of butter, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 3/4 of a cup of white sugar, and two, well, I'm going to add the eggs here in a minute, but I creamed the sugar and the butter together, okay? So that's already done. And so, you know, you didn't have to watch me do that. So I'm going to start the mixer again. And I do have the paddle attachment on there. You know, if you have a different type of mixer, you're going to know whatever type of adjustment, you know, or paddle or whatever you need to use. These are 2 room temperature eggs. Eggs, everything you work with should be room temperature. So I'm adding that in, and I'm going to speed up the motor a little bit here, putting the eggs in one at a time. And here goes the other one. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute here because I think I need to go ahead and get some of that dough off of the paddle. All right, what I'm doing here, scrape down the bowl. That's something you're going to have to do probably any time that you're making, you know, this type of dough or whatever. So that's what I did. We'll see. Okay, and again, after I show you this vanilla, we'll stop and then we'll come back when I have this more combined. But in any recipe, again, use high quality vanilla. Don't ever use that imitation stuff. You will never get the right result. And whatever they call for in the recipe, my advice is most of these cookie doughs, they call for 1 teaspoon. Use like a tablespoon. This stuff is magic. I mean, the flavor that comes out of a good vanilla. And if you look at this, you can even see some little specks in there. And that's probably part of the what they call the vanilla caviar, which are the vanilla seeds inside of the pod. And it's a wonderful flavor. So we will be back in just a few when this is more mixed up. Okay, what I have here is 1 teaspoon of baking soda dissolved in 1 teaspoon of hot water. And with the mixer on low, I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And then I have in here 2 1/4 cups of flour. And I have decreased the salt. Normally there would be a teaspoon in here, but it's probably about 3/4 of a teaspoon because the macadamia nuts are salted. So I want to make sure I control that salt. Okay, once that's combined, which that's what we're working on right now, once that's combined, I'm going to go ahead and add in the chocolate and the nuts. We're getting close to being combined there, so I want to talk for a minute about the chocolate and the nuts. What I have here are chocolate chunks, and they're probably available in most better stock grocery stores. The brand name on this one is Saco, S-A-C-O, in case it might be available in your area. These are just regular bittersweet chocolate chips. These are white chips. These are macadamia nuts, and these are pecans. Now, you can customize this to whatever your family would like, what you like. I realize there are a lot of nut allergies out there now. You can make this and it will be great without any nuts at all. Now, I have typically put all of this stuff in, and that's what, for some reason, made people like it so much. I've heard it referred to as a cookie candy bar and that type of a thing. And people have talked about it that I've worked with. And again, what's going on here is just a really basic cookie dough. that I am using quality ingredients in, and then adding in more quality ingredients that make it, you know, that much better. So I won't show you all the adding in, but I'll show you what the cookie dough looks like when we get ready to chill it, just in a minute, okay? Okay, earlier when I mentioned how to measure that flour, you can see that I've got this on a piece of wax paper, and I really like using that because that way you can curl it up and then pour it right back into the bag of the flour. And yes, I'm using King Arthur on this one. I do think that's one of the best flours that you can get out there. So here is what the dough looks like, okay? And I have put in the chocolate and the nuts that you saw earlier. All of them went in. So I'm going to chill this probably for about an hour, and then I'll bake it off, and then I'll show you what that finished cookie looks like. Okay, so I put it in a bag to chill it, and now it's all chilled. The way you want to do this is put your oven at 375, and then start with 12 minutes, okay, on the cookie sheet that has a Silpat on it. And then about halfway through, you know, rotate it 180 because there are a few ovens that bake evenly, okay? And what you want to see is where it's golden brown around the outside and it may be a little undercooked on the inside. And that's okay because these cookies will continue to cook after you take them out of the oven. And I personally prefer a cookie that's a little bit undercooked. And that way, you know, it's more chewy than it is crisp. You get crispness on the edge, but the cookie remains chewy. So that's how you want to bake it. Okay, here we are. The cookies are done, and I just wanted to remind you again that I used a Silpat on top of a like flat cookie sheet. And then when they came out of the oven, I slid them onto this cooling rack, still on the Silpat. Now, I believe I said it earlier, but just in case, the chocolate and nuts that I had chocolate chunks, some chocolate chips, some white chips, and then I had pecans and macadamias, okay, so which sounds outrageous. But this is the cookie you end up with, all right? And when you open it up, that's what it looks like. It's kind of like some people have said it's a candy bar cookie or whatever, and they are absolutely delicious. So I hope you try the recipe. It's easy. You can do it. There's no mystery about it. And if you don't want to do the macadamias or any of these other things that I put in it, customize it to what you want. You know, you can put whatever you want in it, and it comes out to be just an absolutely delicious, decadent cookie. So I hope that this helps you, and maybe it's something you might want to make for the holidays. I do want to thank Lori Adams and Trey that I've used to work with. Anyway, they both liked them, and they know who else liked them. So anyway, that's the cookie, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.